Today's guest is my good friend Mike Dowling, the author of the book Sergeant Rex, and big special thanks to Audible for supporting this channel and making it so that if you want to pick up a copy of his book, you can go to audible.com/fullmag, sign up, and get it for free. Now, Sergeant Rex is one of 150,000 books that you can go download there. I spend a ridiculous amount of time in my truck. So between trips from Tennessee to Los Angeles and just getting out to the range sometimes takes me 3 hours one way. So I accumulated 121 hours and 45 minutes of time spent listening to audiobooks in the first 4 months of having Audible while I was driving on the road. So I promise you, if you listen to this entire podcast, you're going to want to go download Sergeant Rex, and you might as well get it for free. So go to audible.com/fullmag and pick it up. We're going to talk about a few things from the book today, but mostly a lot of things that add to his story, what he's doing now, and a few things from the book that you might not pick up or whatnot. But anyways, don't worry about any spoilers. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into this. Mr. Mike Dowling.
No fluff here. You just get right to it. You just get to the point, right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And really, I mean, like this, it's kind of hard not to in this environment. I really wanted to make this as low key as possible and as like least intimidating as possible. So.
It kind of has like a little Wayne's World basement kind of feel to it, you know, like it's very casual and relaxing, and you can just let loose down here. I
love it, man. I love it, especially being outside of LA now. Like the whole hustle and bustle of just the atmosphere of LA and everything. Kind of like it's like very, very like locust effect in a way, and this is like very laid back, like equestrian center and stuff like that, and just
kind of like an escape from it all, right?
Absolutely,
right in your own home.
Absolutely, and it's not that far away from LA and everything anyway. So,
no.
But yeah, so like, I really want to like, you're such an interesting guy. Like, I want to give people an idea of like before we go into your background, like let's talk a little bit about what you got going on now, because you've done so much stuff between VFTLA and now what you're doing with We Are the Mighty. So. Maybe let's just start from when you got out of the Marine Corps and when you came to LA and talk about that before we go into the book and whatnot.
Sure. Well, my orders ended at the end of 2010 in the Marine Corps. So I was active duty from 2001 to 2005, and then I was out for 3 years, and then I was mobilized out of what's called inactive ready to reserve, and went to go work from 2008 to the end of 2010, and moved to Los Angeles to start studying and working in the entertainment industry. And so I've been here since that time. And where do you want me to go from there?
No, that's it. I mean, like, what really like what drove you in the entertainment industry? Was it like, do you like have like, is it like some kind of passion project or something that you like maybe want to like a documentary that you want to like produce or you want to make, or as far as an actor is concerned, do you like, are there specific roles and stuff that you kind of want to do?
So working in entertainment is something I've always dreamed of doing, and I have these, when I have a desire, I have to try it, I have to do it, I have to get it out of my system and apply myself towards it. Otherwise, I'm always going to regret. I don't want to have any regrets in my life, That's part of the reason why I joined the Marine Corps. I always wanted to do it since I was a kid, and I eventually said, screw it, I'm going to do it, and dropped everything and joined. Well, and in high school, I played sports. I was an athlete, but my body was fragile for some reason. I got injured all the time, and eventually got to the point to where I really couldn't play anymore, and I needed to keep doing something and keep busy. So I started acting. I got into drama, and I actually really liked it. But after high school, I never did anything with it. And then here we are years later. And my last duty station in the Marine Corps was to help, was to support the wounded warriors at Balboa Hospital in San Diego.
Yeah.
So I did all kinds of things for them. I basically just did everything for them, so that all they had to do was focus on was getting better, just healing and going to their appointments. And I also helped with their transition plans, so to make sure that they had a successful plan when they got home to integrate back into civilian life. And one of the Marines I was taking care of, he wanted to work in entertainment. He said, I've been healing for the last 2 years. I've been watching movies this whole time, and I want to go write movies and direct movies. And I said, Matt, wow, me too. One of the Marines I worked with, he also wanted to work in it, and it just kind of lit that flame back up
Yeah.
that I had years ago about always wanting to get into entertainment. So what I did was to see if I was still passionate about it. I in my off time while in the Marine Corps, I took private acting classes in San Diego just to see if it was something that interested me still, and it did, and it was. It did still fulfill that passion that I had for it. So I got out and I said, I want to go do this. This is something I want to go do. So, and that's how I ended up in LA. And I had a lot of job offers leaving the hospital with nonprofits that support veterans and specifically wounded warriors.
Sure.
And lots of opportunities in that area. But I figured I could still do that while also pursuing another passion of mine. So,
Yeah.
and I enrolled in UCLA's extension courses, started using my GI Bill, and it was off to the races.
Oh, that's great. It's such a like huge animal to try to attack, the entertainment industry in general.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's a weird like kind of paradigm shift that we've gone through with social media and everything, where people can kind of like create their own stuff on YouTube and stuff. And arguably, I wouldn't be in the position I'm at now if the entertainment industry wasn't as frustrating as it is, where you constantly, as a creative person, have to ask people for permission to do what you want to do.
Right.
And ultimately, the whole reason why I started doing YouTube videos was just to vent creatively while I wait for permission from these casting directors or whoever to let me do what it is I want to do.
Yeah.
And so is that kind of the inspiration for like VFTLA? Or?
Well, no, VFTLA, the inspiration for that was, again, one of my responsibilities when working with the wounded warriors was helping with transition plans and just supporting them during that transition period. And the ones that were successful, and by that what I mean is the ones that did okay when they got out and continued on with their life, they stayed involved in the veteran community. They stayed connected in some capacity. They didn't isolate themselves. They were involved with other vets or just involved in their community, period. And the ones that didn't do well were the ones that did isolate themselves and didn't really talk to anybody anymore. And some of them didn't do so well that they ended up losing their struggle with, mental health issues that they had
Sure.
going on. So when I got out, I wanted personally to stay involved in the community, just for my own health. I didn't want to leave the veteran community again like I did when I first got off of active duty.
Yeah.
So when I got to LA, I immediately enrolled in the VA system. I got involved with some VSOs, veteran service organizations, right away, and just stayed involved. And it's not that I needed it. I just wanted to be part of it, because what I realized is that if you're a veteran and you just are still involved, you might put yourself in a position to where a veteran that does need support, that does need help, might connect to you in some way and find that strength in you to help pull them through whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
And what I found is that happens pretty often, is that veterans that are reaching out will find other veterans that they connect with through other organizations, other events, or some kind of social community. So it's just a matter of staying involved. So with VFT, when I started working in entertainment and going to school.
Oh, let's explain what VFT stands for and everything.
Veterans in Film and Television.
Yeah.
I wanted to meet other veterans in entertainment when I got here, and I did start meeting veterans. But what I realized was that there was no centralized networking group or support group for veterans that worked in the industry. There were veteran-owned production companies, and they all had their own kind of cliques per se.
Yeah.
But there was no one collaborative primary source that veterans can go to and feel supported. And so I teamed up with a veteran friend of mine, Kyle Hessman-Stokes, who's an Army vet. He went to USC Film School, and the two of us put the framework together to just have a support group, essentially. We were happy if we just had 25 or 30 veterans show up, and we ended up having about 100, 130 veterans show up to our first event.
Wow. I mean, it's pretty impressive, like the group that you guys have now. I mean,
Thanks. And our first event was February 2012, and we invite guest speakers to come out, and we didn't just want it to be a bunch of vets in a room just kind of passing out resumes and introduce. We wanted to provide a lot of value, even though that's value in itself. We wanted to have professionals that have experience that veterans can ask questions about to hopefully learn and advance their own careers in some capacity. So each event we would invite a special guests, and we've had A-list directors, producers, actors, all kinds of executives that have come out and spoke. And then eventually we had HR reps from companies. And what happened was Hollywood, thankfully, is becoming more veteran friendly, which means a lot of companies are actually hiring or looking to support the veteran community in some way.
Yeah.
And so the more they started finding out about VFT, they would start sending their representatives to our events. And then, you know, word starts spreading quickly that way. So we went from just that first event to over 1,800 veterans
Wow.
in 3 years. And you know, we never thought it'd grow or have any kind of impact that it's having now, where vets are getting hired on studio productions, getting hired at companies, advancing their knowledge in certain fields. You know, Red Camera,
Yeah.
they donate classes to educate veterans within our group about their cameras, and we have, you know, intro to improv classes that are given.
Oh, nice.
Oh, the Writers Guild, and again, the guilds, the unions, they're all very supportive as well. And I don't know, I think there's just a lot of opportunities being generated.
Yeah, it's quite inspiring to see like how many production companies to directors, producers, everyone, like they like in the past they would be like, oh, we need a specific look for a lot of roles or whatever it is that they're casting for. And now I see you have like your Michael Bays and Jon Favreau's and everybody who are just like, no, we want military personnel, like active duty or retired.
Yeah.
And we want to hire them on the productions. We don't want extras that, you know, they just did some random thing growing up and they don't know how to present themselves in an appropriate manner in a specific situation. So,
well, the good thing is, you know, we have VFT is veterans that work in all areas of the industry, above the line, below the line, which means, you know, the creative actors, writers, directors, and also the camera and crew, and but we also have veterans that are just looking to work from a business side as agents or managers. They're all there. So whenever a company comes to us, it's like, you know, chances are we're going to have veterans that fulfill what you're looking for. And so Judd Apatow has been fantastic. He's been interviewing and hiring veterans. Clint Eastwood, when they did American Sniper, they sent out they auditioned several of the vets. Ang Lee, he's auditioning veterans for his film, and that's just acting side. And then NBC Universal, Paramount Studios, and you know, they've all been finding ways to learn more about veterans and the community and find ways to integrate them into some kind of capacity or opportunity with them.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting too, that I went there with like kind of expectations of seeing a bunch of veterans looking to be actors and films. Like when I looked to see like all the different positions that they were looking to fill, from cinematographers to grips, like every aspect of the entertainment industry. So I think I even tweeted you out. I was like, Jesus, I had no idea it's this expansive. I mean, it's really like impressive and inspiring to see.
Well, you know, we didn't realize, never expected it to kind of grow to where it's at today. Honestly, we just wanted it to be a networking, supportive group of veterans in the industry. But because the industry has become so veteran friendly, they want to come and find veterans for their opportunities. So what we realized was we needed to put our membership online, so that they can scroll through the members and bring anyone in for interviews. So if you're a veteran and by the way, you have to qualify yourself
that's
as
what I was
a member.
about.
You have to provide a DD-214 to show that you served. And then once you're approved, you can create for free a professional profile, where you can put all your bio, your reels, your headshots, unlimited videos, unlimited headshots, all your social media links into this one. And you can use that link to send to people to promote yourself. And really that capability, like if for any other casting website, that costs a lot of money per picture, per video, everything that you put up just to sign up. It costs a lot of money. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible for veterans to find a foot into this industry, and also for the Hollywood to connect with them. So on each profile, if you want to, if you're scrolling through the members, you can message them individually saying, hey, I like your resume. I like, I want to bring you in for an interview, an audition, whatever it is. And that whole process is free on both sides.
Yeah, it's very like for me to look at that, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like not anti-establishment. It's just as an actor and everything. When I moved to LA, I found out very fast how many predatorial businesses existed just to suck the money out of aspiring actors or whatever field. And so that's one reason why I started programming. I'm not going to name any names of any companies.
Sure.
But I started creating apps right when iOS and the dev kits came out, just so I could offer something for a really, really, really low price to actors as a tool to check casting notices and stuff like that. And what I did was I used the API to scrape different casting websites, and this wasn't technically illegal because to be able to pull from the website, you had to log in with your username and password. So I wasn't taking anything from the services. You still had to be a member,
right?
But they didn't have applications for their phone or for Android or iOS. And I got a cease and desist from one of the companies, and I was like, dude, look, I'm trying to provide something to actors and actresses
who get taken advantage of every single day,
and
have to pay for everything, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm like, I'm not taking anything away from you. They still have to pay for your subscription service and everything. I'm just making it easier for them to read the breakdowns and submit for them. And like, this is me talking to him on the phone. He's like, I don't give a damn. He's like, I will sue you until you don't have any more money. Take me off of that.
Yeah.
And I talked with my attorneys about it and everything, and I'm just this broke comedian kid, like struggling and programming on my own, like learning how to do this stuff myself.
They try and bully you as much as possible.
Yeah, and
to protect their business.
That was the moment where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep making these apps. I made some of the first YouTube apps for creators and stuff like that because you couldn't monetize on the native native YouTube app on iOS, and so I just wanted to shake the system up on some of the stuff and kind of snowball drive people to create.
People like you that force people to create more value for their members. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It challenges them to think outside the box.
Well, and I wasn't even doing it to generate a profit. I was doing it as a consumer. And that's the thing that I tried to explain to people is like the one thing that really like shows you that I'm just doing it to shake up the system is that I don't do it for profit. I do it just to throw it out there.
And that, a VFT is a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
I've never been paid for it. Kyle never got paid for it. The only thing we ever brought in was we had to start charging for events because we have to pay for parking staff and we have a bar afterward. And so we started charging just $5 for an event, which barely, if it ever, covers the bare minimum needs of what we do. And anything that's extra, we just put into the organization's account for future events down the line. But neither of us ever made a penny, and yet for 3 years we kind of operated this. We've since passed it off to other members and other leaders within the group because we have our own personal pursuits that we want to do. But for just $5 for an event in which you get to network with up to 150 other veterans that are professionals in the industry, plus you get access to usually an A-list professional, and you can promote your work on screen so that everybody can see you. You could pitch for help. Just the value that comes for only $5 for one event is unbelievable. Not to mention the free profile. And
here I'll switch to the page there if you want to scroll through it real fast.
So this is this is our database of veterans that you can scroll through, of all kinds of, and it's all levels of experience as well, not just all different veterans that do different jobs, but some have been in the industry for years.
Yeah.
Some of them have amazing credits to their name, but I'll just show you Well, here goes Ricky. Ricky's a good-looking guy here, and he's a Navy vet. He's an actor. And look, here goes his bio about who he is. And by the way, you can put as much as you want here. You have links to his resume, to his personal website, his company website, whatever that is. You can put all your social media, LinkedIn, YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, your IMDb. And he's got, look at all these videos. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
It's like 2, 4, 6, and if you just click on any one of them, it pops up right there. You could start watching them. And it's an embedded YouTube link.
That's great.
And then if you scroll even further, look at all these headshots that he's got down. He's actually only has 6, but it pops right up. You can check it out. And again, if you were to upload any of these to any other kind of...
That's what I was about to say. I feel like we're like I don't want it to come across to the listeners that like this is like just a promotion or something. It's just that I'm so impressed with that you offer all of this like for free on both ends of the equation, because I'm so used to seeing people getting taken advantage of, and that's why I was like, yeah, good on you for doing this. And it's like it's not just the service, but it's also a very, very specific opportunity that you're offering it to a specific demographic, which is great.
Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with Ricky here or anybody, you just click on this "Get in touch with Ricky," and it goes to a separate page where you can't see his information, but you can send a message to him. And when you send it, it goes to his personal contact, and he can respond however he likes. And again, we operate on donations for the website to stay up, for the events to continue, for programs and staff to be hired. But we never intended. When I moved to LA, I never intended to create a VFT.
Yeah, that
was never in my mind. It was just more of there has to be some kind of support structure set up. And thankfully, the veterans within the industry, the only reason why VFT really exists to where it is today is because the veterans that are members have created it to what it is today. They're the ones who offer each other opportunities. They're the ones who bring opportunities and support to each other. And as more of the vets do that help each other out, the more it grows and the more people get out of it. So,
well, I'll be honest. I can't think of any kind of collective group of like-minded individuals at any capacity. And I cringe as I say this, so please, everybody, don't quote me. Everybody's gonna be Richard said this, but like the veteran community is like no other. Like they can influence and drive and do like I feel so bad saying this, and please don't take this the wrong way, but like what are they called, like tweens, like the Justin Bieber, like
the Beliebers,
or whatever, they are that powerful. They were like, actually they're way more powerful. Let's say they're way more powerful because they can influence change with money. They can influence change with just their collective, like their emails, phone calls, showing up. I mean, it's like there's no other demographic or collective group of people that I know of in the country that really has that kind of presence, like the veteran community.
Yeah, and it's and we appreciate that, because at least I personally feel supported by the nation, the community. We're such a small demographic. I mean, only less than 1% actually serves, I guess, and that seems very small, but we're very tight, we're very close, and there's a lot of respect for our community in terms of that, we have a voice, especially if we band together, because, VFT hasn't been easy. It's been around and it's grown a lot, but there's a lot of strong egos and opinions and not just within the veteran community, but of course within Hollywood itself. Sure. And you have two guys, myself and Kyle, who are new to the industry. We don't have the long credit list like some others might have, but we had the drive and motivation to want to help our own, and it's because of that. And, and I think others see that intention. They see that it's just a philanthropic, something where you get out of it of what you give into it kind of situation. And thankfully, we've had really amazing leaders that are veterans within the organization step up and help create, you know, the example of how to conduct yourself as a professional and how to be one within the community, both in Hollywood and within the veteran community. So I'm proud of it. I'm happy for it. You know, I'm starting to veer off to where I'm doing my own personal stuff now, and because I've poured in, I've donated, you know, 3 years of my life into this thing just to keep it going without getting paid for it. I've been getting paid through the GI Bill, going to school, and other personal ventures that I do.
Yeah, now you got a light bill to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's in great hands, you know, and whether me and Kyle are involved at this point from here on out, I think people recognize the value in it, and we'll continue, and we'll make sure it continues on. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, for those of you listening in, this is one of those weird conversations where it's like, I know you might be a little apprehensive about listening. I assure you, I'll go ahead and preface this that there might be a few spoiler alerts in this, you know, spoiler alerts, but it doesn't matter. I promise you, like, you're reading the book is just it's its own, like, it, like, for me, I binge on just about everything. Like, I 100% not lying here. Like, I got your book off of Audible after we had talked about it. It's like, you know, Mac.
Mac.
Yeah.
Who's Mac?
From, like, he hosted Future Weapons.
Yeah.
So I was telling him, I was like, it's like, dude, you gotta do, like, you gotta record your show. And don't just do it live, because, like, I want to listen to this stuff, because like, that's like the on-demand stuff. I spend so much time in my truck. I did, like, I think it was close to 72 hours in, like, 3 months.
Oh my God.
Of Audible, like,
that you
books.
consumed?
Yes.
Yeah.
And from Game of Thrones to your book, there was just a dozen of them. I just ripped through, and so if you do hear a few things in here, I promise you guys that you're still gonna enjoy the book, and hopefully you'll know a little bit more about Mike going into the book, so it sucks you in that much faster. And so that's why I wanted to start with the VFT stuff, to give people an idea of, like, you know, that's a very selfless thing to do, you know, like, and starting that not for profit and everything. And so let's just start with your background, because that's like this is like really what hooked me into the book.
Yeah.
was like where you grew up, and just tell everyone, like, where you grew up. And,
sure. I feel like I've lived kind of several lives already at this point. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm from a city called Richmond. It's just north of Berkeley. I usually just say I'm from Berkeley, California, because that's where I spent most of my time growing up. And I'm the fourth of 6 kids. My dad is from Ireland. Like, he grew up in Ireland and came here to raise a family. My mom is from Los Angeles. She's Mexican Indian, and they raised us up in Northern California. And one of my very good friends joined the Marine Corps out of high school, and I had thought about it but didn't pull the trigger like he did. I actually went to school for a little bit first, but the whole time I was at school, I was regretting not joining the Marine Corps, because he would come visit me after he got stationed in San Diego. He would drive up and come up for the weekend and with his buddies, and tell me all the fun that they're having, because this is pre 9/11.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I made the wrong decision. I left school eventually, and I packed up everything. I didn't talk to anybody. I just went right into the Marine Corps recruiter's office and said, "Get me out of here. I'm ready to get on the next bus." You know.
Why the Marine Corps, though? That's the one thing that I always like to ask people, because, you know, the kind of rivalry between different branches of service, and you know, just everyone likes to poke fun of the other and everything. But what was the big, like, draw for you for the Marine Corps?
Well, I felt like all the signs pointed me into the Marine Corps. One, when my two older brothers were heavily recruited by the military and the Marines, and I remember they would call the house, and I love their uniforms, the dress blues. I love their uniforms so much, right?
Yeah.
But then my friend, all he would talk about is the Marine Corps, because he was so excited to join. And so that's really, I had most exposure to the Marine Corps than any other branch, just mainly through my friend who talked about it all the time. And then when I went to go research, and I would just always hear that they're the toughest boot camp, you know, the most disciplined. And I just decided that if I was going to do the military, I wanted to go all out in the sense that I wanted to join the branch in which I felt like I was challenged the most.
Sure.
And so that's why, yeah.
You have a this is so cool. I love talking about this because you have like arguably the best story, the best. Like I know like I have friends who went into recruiters and they were given a ride and everything but you went into your recruiter and came out smelling like a rose, dude.
Well, it didn't seem like it at first.
You could have been just so tell everyone about like your whole MOS and everything.
How I ended up.
Yeah.
Well, I joined the Marine Corps right after I turned 22, you know, which is a little bit older than most. Most go 18, 19, 20 years old. And I went in when I was 22. So if I would have went in when I was 18, 19, I would have wanted infantry all the way, you know, the hardcore lifestyle. But because I went in 22, I didn't know if I wanted to make military career or not. So I was open to other jobs in the military other than infantry, because if I had gotten out of the military 4 years later or 8 years or whatever, I wanted to apply whatever skills I had to to a field, to a career, you know, because infantry, you know, you could be law enforcement or security. There's really not much else. At least that's what I was told at the time. So my job was communications, right? And I got it guaranteed, which means when I finish boot camp, I'm guaranteed to go to that school. And I signed up in the spring of 2001, and I was supposed to leave in October 2001. But in August, one of the recruits or poolees, whatever you want to call it, he backed out at the last second. My recruiter called me and said, "Hey, I have an open spot. Do you want to go earlier?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, I'm ready to go." So the next day, I got sent down to MEPS, which processes you to go to boot camp, and I was the last to get processed, and we were late to get on the plane to get out of there to go to boot camp. And he said, "What's your job?" And I said it was communication. And he said, "Actually, you don't have it." I said, "Yeah, I got it guaranteed." Which means they can't change it on you. And he says, "Yeah, you're right. You have it guaranteed for when you leave in October, when you were originally supposed to leave. Yeah. But because you're leaving early, it's void. You're not guaranteed anything." And not only is it not guaranteed, but it's closed out, which means even if you wanted it right now,
it's filled.
It's filled.
Yeah.
And I was, oh my God, like how you couldn't, I can't express how mad I was, because I just felt like my recruiter just screwed me, right? Like all the rumors of recruiters screwing you over, it all came true for me right at that moment. And he said I had 3 options because we were running late. He said, "You can sit here and choose through this entire list of MOSs to get a job, but we don't have time to do that. So really, you can either go in on an open contract, which means the Marine Corps will choose the job for you, which is the worst thing you can choose, because you could become, a cook or a sanitary engineer, whatever they call it. Yeah. And those are jobs that a lot of people don't want, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a cook at all. Yeah. I'm just saying
you can scrape paint and be happy.
Right. But if, they can throw you in the jobs that most people don't choose. Right. And, or I can not get on the plane, go back home and wait a couple months and leave in October and get my guaranteed job. But I was motivated, man. I was ready to go. I was told everyone that I was leaving, and I'm sitting there thinking, what should I do? What should I do? And he's pressuring me to hurry up and make a decision. And he says, "Listen, I'm looking at your scores, like your ASVAB scores. Everyone takes a score when they join to see what they would be good at. And he says, you scored really, really well. So if you go in on an open contract, usually the Marine Corps doesn't want to waste a good recruit on a bad job, or you know what I mean?"
Of course he
That's what he said to
that. Of course he says
so that. They might give you something that, is really great, but but you can still end up as whatever they want you to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was. I just had faith in that moment of saying, you know what? I'm here for a reason. I've been wanting to do this for so long. Here it is right now. Screw it. Let's do it. Open contract. And I went, and that's what. So which means all throughout boot camp, I had no idea what my job was going to be in the Marine Corps. They don't tell you until the end of MCT, Marine Combat Training. So you graduate boot camp, they still don't tell you. And then they send you to an extra like basic infantry school. But what I didn't know was when I got sent to that, if you're going to be infantry, you go to School of Infantry. If you're going to be any other job besides infantry, you go to Marine Combat Training. And that's where I went. So I knew I wasn't going to be infantry.
Yeah.
And then they told me, but here's the crazy part. While I was in boot camp, so I left in early August 2001, 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
A month later.
Yeah.
While I was in boot camp. Which, by the way, I was actually really happy to be in Marine Corps boot camp at that time because I felt like, well, if we're going to do this, I want to be here. I want to train to go, defend and get some payback, all that stuff. So, and I thought I was going to be infantry, which, to be honest with you, I was totally okay with that. And but I didn't. So then I go to MCT, and they give me military police, which I never thought about being an MP. And I knew that there was a lot of other jobs that I didn't want, that it could have been a lot worse than MP, right? But,
absolutely.
So, but it turns out one of my good friends was going to go to MP school, so I was really happy about that. So I was actually really excited that I got a job that I thought wasn't too bad at all, Plus I had a good friend. And then when I go to MP school, they tell you all the different career avenues you can go, and one of them is canine, military dogs.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that the military even had dogs.
Right. Didn't they just reboot the program though?
No, they always had the program. They just rebooted a lot of war dog programs. Well, actually started new ones really after 9/11.
Okay.
But they still had your standard military working dog, military police men and women. You know?
Right.
And so as soon as I heard that, that's what I wanted, because my whole life, I've had dogs my whole life, at least 2 minimum, so sometimes 3 or even 4. And my family would train and foster guide dogs for the blind when I was young, and I loved doing that. My sister had started doing that. She did that for years. I went to a lot of the meetings with her. Plus, down the road from where I grew up is this dog park called Point Isabel, which sits on the San Francisco Bay, and it's gorgeous.
That's actually a really popular
it's
dog
incredibly
park.
popular. It's like hundreds of dogs there every weekend, and it's picturesque, and I would just go there all the time with our dogs. So I had already had a big affinity towards the animal.
Sure.
And I thought, how great would that be to have a dog during my time in the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
And then come to find out that it's incredibly hard to get a canine spot. So in a regular military police class of like 60 plus students, only 2 slots are allotted for canine.
Wow.
And more than half the class wants those slots.
Absolutely.
So I worked my butt off, man, and I graduated top of my class. I wanted canine so bad that I wanted to ensure that I was going to get it by outworking everybody, and I did. I was the honor grad, and I got canine, and I was really happy about that. Yeah,
that's great.
Crazy,
that's great.
Right?
That's arguably the best story I've ever heard anybody who's ever had an open contract have.
Yeah. What's crazy? Here's the crazy part about this, actually. So during that time, a lot of people that signed up to become MPs. When you sign up for a job, you sign up for a field, not a specific job, and you hope to get the job that's within that field, right? So if you want to be an MP in the Marine Corps, you sign up for the security field. Well, that also includes being a guard at a brig, as well as other jobs, right? And so I knew guys that wanted to be an MP and sign up for security field, ended up being a brig guard, and a bunch of open contracts for some reason ended up being MPs. So if I knew about canine and wanted to be an MP so I can get it and sign up for it, there was a good chance if I had done that, I would have ended up being a brig guard instead.
Wow.
So it's a good thing I didn't know about canine. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I got it, and I got stationed at Camp Pendleton, and it was off to work, and they were amazing, the unit that I was with there. Yeah.
Now that whole process is a little like, so the way I like to kind of like tell guests is just think that, I might have some prior knowledge on a lot of this stuff, but chances are that, the bulk majority of the people that maybe listening to this don't have any knowledge. So as far as the type of training, that you have to go through in the selection process for that? How does that differ from anything else that you might go through, like obedience training with
Right.
your Labrador or something like that? Like how was that any different once you went into the program at Pendleton?
Well, first you go to a handler's course to learn how to learn how to handle a military working dog, and you graduate a basic working dog handler's course, and while you're there, they teach you just how amazing these animals are. And I can, working with dogs my whole life growing up, I already knew that dogs were incredibly intelligent and athletic and all those things. Well, once I saw the military dogs, it took it to a whole new level. You really don't know. I kind of relate these dogs to athletes growing up. Like, you have high school athletes, and then you have the athletes that are Division I capable of getting scholarships and whatnot, right? And then out of those D1 athletes, only a very tiny percentage actually make the pros.
Right.
So with military dogs, they start off with litters of like D1 athlete puppies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they are bred specifically for these working purposes. And then a large majority of them get washed out, and only a very small percentage actually become a professional military working dog, and they go through a rigorous process. And these are the most intelligent, athletic, amazing dogs in the world, And it's an honor to handle any one of them.
Yeah.
Because there's not many like them, at all. So it's really tough. They're really, they tell you how much. They say at the end of the military dogs training, they're worth anywhere up to $50,000.
Yeah, well, because
of all the training that goes into them, and all the health and everything, and you are responsible for that $50,000 animal at this point. Like you're responsible for their life, their health, to take their training to maximize their abilities, and it's a very highly responsible position, And so when I got stationed at Camp Pendleton, the unit there, they were very good at what they did. They had extremely well trained dogs, and they didn't take it easy on the new handlers. They wanted to make sure that you were going to take the time and effort that's needed to make your dog the best that it can be, because the greatest asset that you can have as a handler is patience. You need a lot of patience when it comes to training and working with dogs, because you do a lot of repetitive stuff to get the dog to do what it needs to do. And
just because you make it into the program doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be working with the dog. Right. So a lot of people think that, oh, well, you make it to the program, great. No, like you don't. That doesn't necessarily ensure that you still have to go through your handlers course and everything. If they don't see a fit, you can.
Well, when you make it to the canine unit, if they don't think that you have the patience, the drive, if you're responsible enough, they could just send you back to the MP platoons and not give you a dog.
Yeah.
So. And trust me, you want to be a dog handler. Like, if you want a dog, it's completely different than being a regular MP.
Dude, I love it. That's one of the things that I loved about your book was you make that very clear.
Yeah.
You make that very clear, like how the let's say the Marine Corps' accommodations, are a little more appealing to those the military working dog handlers and
we
stuff
get
like
all
that.
The AC, we get all the equipment. Well, we don't get all the equipment, but we get more, especially in the Marine Corps. It's when compared to an MP, just a regular MP, which, by the way, the MPs, the ones, some of them just want to be an MP, and that's completely okay.
Absolutely.
They do really great jobs. But if you want to be with a dog and you have the option, you definitely want a dog, because it's just so much fun having a dog with you the whole time. A lot of times they're unpredictable, and they do really great things to lighten your mood and all that. But it's always nice to have a partner watching your back at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what like explain the whole process there, like because now a lot of people are familiar with the Belgian Mals, because they've kind of taken the poster for the quintessential military working dog and everything. So you like what was the process for you and like meeting Rex for the first time and everything?
Well, that's a story within itself, because the canine unit that I got assigned to at Camp Pendleton, I loved them. I loved how disciplined they were, and how good of trainers they were. They were amazing. All of them were amazing handlers and dog trainers. And I learned every day. I learned so much from those guys and gals in that unit, because they really took canine handling serious. The problem was they made some mistakes that the NCIS, the investigation unit, found out about. And NCIS started an undercover investigation of the Camp Pendleton Canine Unit back in 2002. And eventually arrested every canine handler, including myself, in that unit. And there was about 20 or 21 of us at the time. And I was what you call the most boot handler. So I was the most brand new, right? And I didn't have a dog. And so I'm not going to get into the details of what happened. And to be honest with you, as the boot handler, I didn't really even know what happened.
You explain it more thoroughly in the book.
I mean, I heard rumors of stuff and things, but people would say, don't ask, because, you
don't want to know.
Right. And I just realized I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to just focus on what I can do. So anyways, when I got interrogated by NCIS, they realized that I didn't know anything, and I told whatever I could, and they let me go. And they said, hey, we need you to write a written statement. And I said, well, what's going to happen to me? They're like, we don't know. You might get kicked out of canine. Who knows, right? So now here I am, like riding a high of getting the best job that I could possibly get as being canine, getting stationed at a unit that I love being a part of, and I'm learning so much. And then all of a sudden I'm getting told that I might be getting kicked out of canine without ever handling a dog. Right? And so I said, well, can I go take a break before I write this statement? And they said, okay, you know what? We got to interrogate all these other handlers. So go back to the barracks and we'll call you back in. And they never called me back in. But our commanding officer was so embarrassed and so upset that an entire unit under his command had been arrested. He wanted to make an example of us, and he wanted to hammer us discipline wise. So all the non-NCOs, so all the lower ranking, which there's about 9 or 10 of us, we all got what's called NJP, non-judicial punishment, which means instead of a court-martial, we just stood tall in front of our commanding officer, and he decided if we were guilty, and that's the process, right? So when it was my turn to stand in front of him, he wanted to find me guilty on conduct on becoming a Marine, because he said that I knew about things going on and didn't report it. And he also said that I falsified government documents, because they tried to claim that our unit was falsifying documents when it came to training so that we didn't have to go train. We just said that we trained, but that's ridiculous. There's no reason why any canine unit would do that unless they're extremely lazy, which, by the way, their dogs were like the best. So the only way you can get like that is if you train all the time. Anyways, I said I was not. He said, how do you plead? I said, not guilty. And he was really upset. He wanted to find everyone guilty, which, by the way, he did. I was like the only one who was exonerated of all my charges. And the way that happened was he was questioning me, and I was giving the answers. And at the very end, he said, you know what, Dowling, I'm inclined to actually believe everything that you're saying, but I feel like you, along with everyone else in that unit, is lying. And the reason why I know that you're lying is because it says right here, you didn't sign a written statement when they asked you to.
Oh, geez.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, when I got interrogated, they told me that I had a camera that was recording the conversation the whole time. Right?
Oh.
And I said, well, I'm glad you brought that up, sir. He said, unless you can explain that, I have no other choice but to find you guilty, because it says that you're hiding something. And so I said, well, sir, they asked me to sign it, and I told them the conversation that took place. I said, I'd be happy to sign it if I could just go take a break. They said, we'll call you back. They never called me back. If you want to check what I'm saying, I was told that a camera was recording our conversation the entire time. So you will see our conversation in which I said that I would be happy to fill it out and that they'll call me back in, and that they didn't. But you can save all this time because the agent that said that to me is standing witness in this room to these proceedings and can verify everything I just said.
Oh,
and he looked over to him, right? The commanding officer looked over to the agent, and the agent did one of these. He looked back to him and said, which, by the way, my entire career is hinging on this decision at this point.
Absolutely.
Right? And the agent looks back at him and he goes, he just nods his head like he's telling the truth, you know?
Yeah.
And so my commanding officer, my commanding officer was like, you're exonerated. Like, I can't pinpoint anything on you, and go back to the kennels and go take it. Well, back to your original question, how I met Rex.
Yeah.
So when I went back to the kennels, it turned out that all the handlers were found guilty to some level, right? And all of them were kicked out of K9, except for like 2 others, right? They got their sentences suspended and were allowed to come back. So it was myself and like 2 others back at the kennels taking care of all these amazing dogs. So just like that, all of my friends and fellow Marines in the unit are gone. I can't learn from them anymore, right? And I took solace in the fact that, well, at least I could probably have my pick of the litter of all these amazing dogs now, right? And handle one of these incredible dogs who I've been watching since I got there. And well, the military flew out an evaluator to evaluate those dogs to see if they were still serviceable, and he made the conclusion that they weren't, all 20 of the dogs, which was complete BS. I mean, these dogs were amazing, right? There's no reason to find all of them not serviceable anymore. So they decertified them, said that they can't work in the military anymore, and they went back to training school to be training dogs.
They sent them to Lackland for that?
Lackland, Air Force Base, which is where all the training goes on. Or they got adopted out. And so here I am, no more handlers, no more dogs. I was so unmotivated at that point in my Marine Corps career because I just saw all my buddies get screwed over. Some of them were guilty, but the majority had nothing to do with what happened. So they were gone, the dogs were gone, and now it's like, man, what's going on? Like, just overnight. Well, now that the dogs are gone, well, now we need to rebuild the kennels. So the first two dogs that they sent out were Rex and a dog named Robbie. And so the new kennel master came in, and he assigned me to Rex and another handler to Robbie, and we went to work. And so that's how I met Rex. Yeah, Echo 168 is his tattoo number. And Rex was gorgeous. He was a beautiful German Shepherd. And the very first day I went into his kennel, he attacked me. It was great. It was great. He in his record book, it says aggressive all over the place.
Yeah.
And really, it's not that he's aggressive. It's more of that he's just very stubborn.
Yeah.
And he's got for a dog, he has an ego. He's got pride.
Yeah.
And you need to earn his respect.
Yeah.
And so when I went in to go put the collar on him for the first time, he bit my hand and started attacking my arm. And so I had to do well, here's the thing. You can never allow him to dominate you because he will never respect you from that moment on.
Yeah.
So I had to do what's called an alpha roll, which means I grabbed him by his throat, slammed him on his back, and mounted myself on top of him and just put my face in his face and was like, no. And I actually had to do that a couple times. I got up, he kept attacking.
Because he was a fairly big dog too, right?
Yeah, he was like, well, it's not that he was fairly big. Again, it's just not the size of the dog, it's the size of the fight of the dog, right?
Absolutely.
Rex, I think he was about 70 pounds at that time, and he was incredibly squirrely. I mean, this dog he can back, and he was so quick, and so I had to be very quick, and I had to alpha roll him like 3 times in a row, and he finally got the message. He's like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done. You win, you know? And then, and he never attacked me again after that point.
Really?
Yeah. If anything, he was incredibly protective from that point on.
Yeah.
And so that was our very first interaction with each other.
That's great.
Yeah.
Such a good story. So like, I guess for a
That
lot
was
of
a long story.
No, it's great. I fucking love it, man. I eat that up because like, I know, because I really appreciate it, because I'm a massive dog lover myself. And for those of you who have, I guess, watched me and listened to me over the years, how Mike and I met was through this thing I was working with Senator Richard Blumenthal for the Canine Members of the Armed Forces Act.
Right.
And I believe we met through the Facebook page that I set up.
Yeah, I saw, if I remember correctly, you were wearing a shirt that promoted the military dogs.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't even remember how I saw your video.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're all over the place, whatever.
Yeah. Well, no, the thing was, so it's this weird thing that I've, this kind of goes back to the whole website thing where, I look to my channel and the stuff that I do as a way to vent creatively, and I feel bad if I make money off of it.
Sure.
And so I always resisted selling merchandise or trying to like really like push things to make money. And I always wanted to like, use it in ways that I could help, I don't know, shed light on stuff or whatever. And I was like, when I moved to Los Angeles, I couldn't have a dog, and dogs have always been a big part of my life too. Like I worked with Labradors and training bird dogs and stuff as a kid, and I had a bunch of dogs growing up. I had a lab that just was the smartest dude ever. I love him. But when I moved out here, it broke my heart because like dogs have always been a really big part of my life, and I couldn't really do anything about having a dog in my new place. So I started volunteering at the North Valley Animal Shelter, which is like it's the highest kill rate shelter in the U.S.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
right here in our backyard.
Yeah, and the reason for it, one is the income, like the poverty line and everything so low in the LA area and these areas and whatnot. And the two primary breeds that come through it are just typically are from lower income housing families, which are pit bulls, which have a stigma attached to them, and chihuahuas, because people buy them for superficial reasons, and then they end up growing from this teacup thing into an actual dog, and they're like, oh, it's not this thing anymore. So
well, plus chihuahuas are aggressive.
A lot of people don't realize that Dachshunds, Jack Russells, and chihuahuas are like
breeds are a lot more aggressive,
super aggressive. And so a lot of the volunteers, they were younger women, and they couldn't really walk the pit bulls and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that if I could help by walking these dogs, get them out of the kennels, make them less have kennel anxiety, it would make them a little bit more adoptable. And so that was kind of my thing, and that's why I uploaded my videos on Mondays, because I would upload on Mondays, and then Tuesdays I'd volunteer. And so like as things started picking up, I was working like 5 jobs too, and like doing the YouTube stuff. So I was trying to look for other ways that I could try to, in my own way, feel like I was helping out. And you know, dogs and kids are always like the thing for me. It's like if I can help dogs or kids out, it's like, you know, it's like it's something that gives you unconditional love. And there's no strings attached to this love that it's giving you. So
man, it's amazing. The best therapist is a dog.
It really is. It really is. So that's why like I really get behind like all these dog charities for be it Dogs for Troops or just whatever. So like when I was talking to Senator Blumenthal's office about the Canine Members of the Armed Forces Act, I was like, let's figure it out. Tell me what I can do and help, like, you know, is it just an awareness thing? So like in all my videos, I started wearing those shirts. I came up with the hair missile shirt and everything, and people always ask, "What's that? What's that?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you about the canine."
Generated conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so that was pretty much how.
And I think I sent you an email saying, "Hey, I appreciate you wearing this shirt and bringing awareness to it."
And I mean, for those of you who like might not know, you can always go online and Google the Canine Members of the Armed Forces Act. But essentially, there were a few things in the bill that were trying to make it so there was it was Robbie's Law was in the Clinton administration enacted, where the dogs didn't have to be euthanized when they left the military working dog program.
Right.
You want to explain that?
So unfortunately, one of the biggest black eyes in the military history is euthanizing military dogs when they didn't have to. And actually at the end of the Vietnam War, when the handlers came back, the majority of all their military dogs stayed over there, which instead of letting them bring them home, which is incredibly tragic. But even still, after that, all the way up from that time until the year 2000, standard protocol was to essentially euthanize the military dogs when they retired, because they felt that they were too much of a liability in the civilian world. They've been trained their whole life to attack, and so that was what protocol and procedures were, which is obviously ridiculous.
Yeah.
So a handler whose dog name was Robbie in the year 2000 fought against that law and to adopt his dog, and President Clinton at the time signed it into law, saying, yes, you know what, handlers, military dogs should be allowed to be adopted out if they're suitable. And so since that law was in place, the majority of military dogs have been adopted out, and it's been fine. It's the only time dogs have been euthanized is if they are extremely aggressive, or for health reasons, like they're suffering from, terminal illness or something like that. Otherwise, the majority of dogs have been adopted out since that time.
Yeah. And I guess for those of you, you can do a little bit of research on it, but it's been a really, really long process. And I can't believe the amount of resistance that people have.
So the whole reason for the bill was, the thing is that people say that dogs have been considered equipment, which is why they get treated in a certain way, which is why they could just euthanize.
They're not just being treated as equipment, but they're literally defined as
labeled.
Equipment.
Yeah, but not really anymore.
Yeah.
Really, I didn't. It's not that I don't care what you call them, as long as they aren't treated in a certain way.
Yeah.
As long as they're allowed to be adopted out, all those things, then that's fine. But they're given, they have a tattoo number. Like Rex's was Echo 168, right? And that's essentially their social security number for a dog. Everything gets labeled underneath that number. And the big thing was when dogs get retired from a U.S. base overseas, or really anywhere, that a handler that's adopting them has to pay for the travel expenses to get the dog flown to them if that's what needs to be happen. And those bills can be thousands of dollars sometimes. I have a good friend who adopted her dog from Italy, a U.S. base in Italy, and she was already at home in Michigan, and she had to pay a couple $1,000 to transport her dog back, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the reason why is because people say, oh, well, because they're equipment, and they can't, if it's a human being, they wouldn't have to pay for all that stuff. And that's where the real root of the bill is. And then also for medical care once they do retire, because when a dog retires, they have no medical health care. Whoever adopts them has to pay for all that stuff, generally speaking. Well, thankfully, there's nonprofits and organizations set up that can provide funds to handlers that qualify to receive them, to take care of the dogs, and to also fly them out. Because in the legislation that was written for the Canine members of the Armed Forces Act, it left a loophole in the sense that it said that the government can, if they want to enact like healthcare and the traveling, that they may have these organizations pay for it, but it doesn't obligate them to do it. You know? So the organizations just step up and do it on their own. That's what it is.
So let's explain exactly what the bill was. It was to reclassify them. Yeah. And you just go through it.
You just reclassify the dogs to canine members as opposed to essentially equipment, which by the way, they did reclassify them. I don't remember what the exact term is. I don't even know if it's canine members anymore. It's just but I know that like right now as we speak, they are literally changing the terminology in the military manuals of how dogs are called, of their names. So it's been successful. It's passed. Yeah. And they aren't treated or thought of. They never really were thought of as equipment, at least in the handler's
No,
eyes,
yeah,
you know?
well, even like your book does a really great job of pointing that out too, where it's like it takes all of like one mission for people to understand the value and the significance of having a dog, and then the added benefit down the road is just astronomical of having a canine in the unit.
They've been trying to replicate a dog's scent detection capabilities through machines.
You just can't do it.
They just can't do it. And they've spent like upwards of $1 billion in trying to create technology that can do it, and they've gotten really good at it. And they have developed some things that work. But in the very end, there's nothing that's better than a dog, because a dog can think. They can pick up a scent from far away and take you to it, as opposed to a machine where you need to place it in a specific area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to mention the therapeutic effect that having a dog has, just having them on deployment.
Yeah,
you know?
it reminds people it's a piece of home.
It's exactly it. Yeah.
So yeah, and just to give you guys a perspective, that the machine, they can pick up like parts per million of
per trillion
or per trillion
for some of them,
of an explosive or any kind of particle that they can signify or whatever. But with a dog can follow or react in a situation that could lead you to it, or where the machine, you're having to move and figure out whether or not the scent is larger, smaller.
That's right, yeah.
And it's just like the amount of money that you spend on training a dog versus this, probably what they've spent on the few machines that they have is like is paid for the program from now until eternity, probably.
Right, but not just the detection capabilities. You also have the patrol capabilities of a dog being able to attack if they need to, or defend yourself, and also the psychological deterrent of having a dog with you brings, meaning when I was deployed in Iraq, there were times where I was in neighborhoods or at a recruiting event for local Iraqis to become policemen, and they were getting out of hand and getting out of line, but they were scared of the dog. They were scared of Rex, and just pulling them out of a vehicle, just, they would, that's funny how we can hear the dog in the background talking about him. I don't know if the mic can pick that up.
No, it can't. It can't. That's George. That's George in the background letting us know that there's a threat.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But they were bold. They didn't really follow our orders. They didn't care if we had weapons. They knew that we weren't going to shoot them if they weren't a threat. But once you take out a dog out of the vehicle, because a dog can bite. And
well, too, they don't treat dogs the same way
right
that
in the
Americans
Muslim
do.
communities. It says in the Quran, if I could be screwing this up, but it says that
it's
dogs,
okay. It's only the internet. They'll only let us know if we.
It says that dogs are considered like a beast.
Yeah.
And you can't house a beast in your home because you won't be protected by Allah or the Holy Spirit or whatever it is. So they don't domesticate their dogs. That doesn't mean that they kill them. They're not familiar with them like we are. Especially a world-class working dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really. It is nothing short of amazing to see those dogs work.
Yeah,
and so there's different qualifications, certifications. Like, explain that just a little bit, like the phases of aggression and everything, like the different certifications. Like, so you'll have, like, Rex is dual certified, right? And so,
right. So dual certified means that the dog is certified in both detection and patrol work. And so when I got stationed at Camp Pendleton, if I were to get a dog, that doesn't mean we can just start working as a dog team. You have to be certified as a dog team, which means you need to prove that you can work effectively and that the dog will obey commands. So when it comes to detection, which, by the way, they can't make a mistake. A military dog who is certified in detection essentially they need to have a 99.9% accuracy rate.
Yeah.
So when it comes to detecting, you just set up the training aids. And by the way, it's either narcotics or explosives that they're certified in, but not both. And so Rex was certified in explosives. And then when it comes to patrol work, they need to be able to show that they will obey your commands, because the dog is part of the force of continuum of force, you know, from pepper spray and your baton stick to a dog to ultimately lethal force, which is your you know, firing your weapon at them. And the dog sits somewhere in that force, a continuum of force. And they're, you know, they can cause serious body harm, you know?
Oh yeah.
So they need to prove that they can, one, attack a suspect if they are ordered to, but also to release from a suspect when ordered. And also if the suspect is running, it's called a standoff, where the suspect gives up while the dog is in pursuit. The dog needs to prove that if you call him off in his pursuit, that they won't bite. And as well as you know, walking with you and the suspect, and so again, it's a very high standard of being certified, and that's why these dogs are just the best, you know.
Yeah.
The ones that pass all this.
We that's so funny. We what did we go? We went and met with, was it the Marine Corps, the military liaison?
Yeah.
Who was it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That I still like think about that story. It was so funny. So you like, I like just telling these little stories that,
Sure.
that they might not like get out of the book, because to me, I think it just proves how badass these dogs are.
Yeah.
So like, tell them about, I forget the dog's name he was at Pendleton, and I think you were there with him, right?
No, well, there's multiple occasions. But
Okay.
basically, are you referring to, as a civilian, you can no longer catch
Yes.
a dog? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So when I was in, people who wanted to catch a dog, which means decoy, put on the bite sleeve and pretend to be the bad guy and let the dog bite them, we would let people do that. But now they no longer do that. And the reason why, and I wasn't there for this, but the story
Right.
is there was a news reporter or a journalist that went to the kennels to write a story on the dogs and put on the bite sleeve to catch the dog. And the dog hit him or her so hard that they landed on their face. You know, they got housed, is what we see. What we say, meaning the dog hit them so hard that they got blasted off their feet and hit the ground hard. And this person hit their face so hard that they broke their nose.
Yeah.
You know, and caused injury to this person. Now,
But didn't he snap his arm through the bite sleeve?
so that's again, there's been several incidents. I've seen people get their shoulders dislocated
Yeah.
because they got hit by a dog so hard that it just popped right out, you know?
Yeah.
And I've seen other dogs release from the bite sleeve and go towards other places that weren't covered by protection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So back in my day, again, we would have civilians put the bite sleeve on if we wanted them to, and we would have a controlled environment to where they get bit. But because of those 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 incidents, they don't want to risk it anymore.
Yeah.
And so they just said no more civilians can get bit.
Yeah.
At least in the Marine Corps. I think in
Right.
other branches they will
Yeah.
let you.
But I mean, that's really like, I love hearing that, because like some people are like, oh, that's why do you like hearing that? Because it just proves how badass these dogs are, and like
They hit hard.
and nobody in their right mind
Yeah.
is gonna go in there with a bite sleeve
Yeah.
and then get fucked up
Yeah,
and
so-
then go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sue you guys. No, you asked for it.
Right. And
Everyone
actually just recently, as in a couple weeks ago, there was this dog competition called the Iron Dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
At Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
And an experienced handler who was put on the bite suit to decoy for the dogs, he got knocked out. He got hit so hard by one of the dogs that he got knocked unconscious.
That's crazy.
Okay, so that's how, and this is an experienced handler.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you that you don't want to mess with them.
I love it, man. I love it. What? Just out of curiosity, you know if it like what breed it was?
I don't actually. I don't remember what breed. But here's the thing. You know, Belgian Malinois, a lot of people still don't know what Malinois are, you know,
Yeah.
and they're not a great house pet, by the way. They
No way.
can be, but generally speaking, they're not, because they have so much energy and
So much.
drive they can never sit still. They have to be working, you know, and they'll just tear your place apart.
They will tear it apart.
Yeah.
I have a few friends who have Mals, and the problem that I have like with owning a Mal, or
Right.
being an owner of a Mal,
Right.
let me rephrase that, is that it requires so much time of your day, because if you're not working that dog, running it, whatever you can, like stimulating its mind, 2+ hours a day, it's not getting what it needs, because those things are like, they're like solid muscle balls of energy, and they just want like the most domesticated one you'll find will still have a ton of energy.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, those dogs are born, they are bred to work.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a task, if you don't give them a lot of attention, they're going to find ways to release that energy, you know?
And see, that's the thing that I like not to be like a Debbie Downer or anything. That's one of the kind of concerns that I have with the Mal being the poster child of like military working dogs now, because a lot of people want that.
Right.
They're like, I want that badass dog, but you don't understand. I mean, I get it from living in LA, from seeing the pit bulls and the chihuahuas coming. A lot of people don't understand
how much time and response. You're right.
Yeah,
that's exactly
and so the big concern for me is that we'd see an influx in breeding, and in return those dogs
get a bad rep.
They get a bad rep, or they end up a lot in the shelters and stuff. So that's kind of like always one of those concerns of mine, where I try to explain to people, you got to figure it out. Like if you're that's a huge commitment to take one of them on.
There's a responsibility for the breeder to ensure that whoever's buying them, whatever you want to call it, knows that this person is vetted and responsible enough to, you know, to own a dog like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't just let anybody buy these dogs.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I'm kind of like debating, like, should we even talk about your time in service with Rex? I mean, we should maybe like let's pick one or two stories, because I want to leave as much as I can for the viewer to go in and just really jump into your book, because I mean it was really immersive.
Thank you. And just to give you why I even wrote the book, which by the way is called Sergeant Rex. Right?
Yeah.
Well, the full title is Sergeant Rex: The Unbreakable Bond Between a Marine and His Military Working Dog. So it's like the longest title ever. But
yeah, I like the narrator for the book.
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah, it was good. They chose a good one. And I called it Sergeant Rex because as a handler, it's drilled inside of you to always think of your dog as one rank higher of whatever your current rank is. So if I'm a Lance Corporal, my dog is a corporal. If I'm a corporal, my dog is a sergeant. If I'm so on and so forth, right? So at the time that I was handling Rex, I was a corporal, which means he would be a sergeant. And the reason why you think of them that way is because, there was actually several backstories to why. But basically, if you were to ever abuse your dog in any way, it'd be like assaulting a senior ranking person. Or if you'd ever to mistreat them in any kind of capacity, it's like you're being insubordinate to someone that outranks you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it's called Sergeant. I mean, I don't address them as Sergeant Rex. You just think of it that way.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And I wrote the book because I wanted to honor him. I felt Rex and what he accomplished and what he went through, not just with me, but in his life period as a working dog, especially during, all the way up to when I had him, because I wasn't Rex's only handler. When I got out of the Marine Corps, he stayed in, and several other handlers had him. But I wanted to honor our time together and honor him, so I wrote this book so that his story and what he accomplished will forever be out there.
Yeah.
And he will never be forgotten. I always encourage veterans in general to record your stories, to put it on paper, especially while it's fresh in your head, because it's therapeutic, one, in the 100%. First place, just to get it out of your system. Two, it's a great way to honor the dog. If you're a dog handler, it's a great way to honor your dog. You just put it in, it's something that you can read to your family, your kids, long after both you and the dog are gone, And I was really fortunate for a publisher to be interested in our story, and that was its purpose, was just, one, honor the dog, and then also for that for anyone who reads it to be educated about what dog teams do in combat and also in their downtime, and just kind of an inside look into a dog team and a normal and a typical evolution of what happens in developing the bond and going through all the training and all that stuff together. So so that's the reason for the book. And then when I deployed, so I deployed with Rex in 2004, and we got, because I was an MP, I wasn't infantry. I wasn't trained to operate in combat per se, like I had my basic infantry training, which was only like 2 weeks or whatever it is right out of boot camp, but that's it. Throughout that whole period with my dog, I'm training to be a regular military policeman to keep the peace on a base, not to operate, with an infantry squad or platoon in a raid situation or in a firefight situation, So, well, here's the thing. The number one threat to coalition forces and civilians are bombs, IEDs that were going off all the time. And, well, how do you counter that? And they realized, the higher ups said, well, don't we have dogs that can detect explosives? And so they had the Marine Corps deploy a team of explosive detection dog teams, and Rex and I were part of that selection. And when we got out there, we were assigned to an infantry battalion, 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines, or 2-2. We got stationed at a forward operating base called FOB Mahmudiyah, which was about a half hour, 45 minutes south of Baghdad, close to Fallujah. It was in a really nasty area. It was in an area that was known as the Triangle of Death. And the reason why they called it that is because at the time that we were there was an extremely high rate of violence, concentration of violence in that area. And so we were just thrown in the mix, and I was worried about how Rex and I would be received by an infantry unit who we had never trained with before, didn't know anybody there. All of a sudden just show up and say, hey, I'm here to lead your patrols and clear roads and bridges and stuff like that of explosives. But they received us. They were happy to have a dog because, like you mentioned earlier, once you have a dog there, it gives them a piece of home. It reminds them of their own dog. And then once you go out on patrol and go out on missions with them, and they see that Rex can actually work and do what it's trained to do effectively, well, then they become even more of a fan of having a dog with them. And so we worked all the time with those guys, with those Marines.
Yeah, it's got to definitely be therapeutic in the sense too that you can like I would assume that when you're deployed, it's hard for people to flip that switch, right? Yeah. And Rex is one of the few people that can. He's like, okay, it's time to play.
Yeah, well, they have a sixth sense, especially at least Rex did. He knew when we were back at the base. He knew when we were relaxing, and then he knew when we were out on patrol and it was, serious situation. I can tell that he knew that it was a serious situation. Yeah. Because, we have this saying, emotions run up and down leash. Oh, yeah. So they can kind of sense and read, dogs can read the handler and kind of get a feel of whatever's going on because of how their handler is reacting. So it was really important when we got into a high stress situation like a firefight or mortar attacks that I remained calm and remained in a way that was, where I didn't get out of hand. Yeah. So that when he looked at me and was reading me on how he should react, he would remain the same way, because it's a big deal to a dog to have all these weapons being fired around it, or having mortars land all around it, which are extremely loud for them. For them to need to know how to react to that situation, a lot of times they just go off of how their handler's reacting. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And likewise, I mean, the part of your training and handler school and everything is like, I guess, learning the different signs and characteristics of like the traits of the dogs.
And that's where the patience and the handler comes into play. So it shows how much time and effort you put into your dog by how you operate in a real situation
Yeah.
or during a training sequence. Because as a handler, you can really, the more time you spend with your dog, you know, just like when you spend time with a human being, the more time you spend with somebody, you understand their little nuances. You understand how you can predict how they're going to react.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is get a false hit or
a false response.
Yeah,
correct.
false response.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's called a change of behavior. You do so much training with the dog that you can tell just by the way that they wag the tail or stop wagging their tail or how they position their head. You can tell that they're on potentially some kind of scent, or that they're alerted to some kind of danger that might be in the area.
Yeah. And
there's two completely different change of behaviors, you know, and you have to understand as a handler what means what. And so and the only way that you would know that is if you are with your dog all the time, you know, during training and during downtime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How many hours a day? I know you cover this in the book and everything, but you have your initial training at Pendleton and everything. But when you were deployed, how much time a day would you spend training along with the time that you're going out?
Well, I was with Rex 24/7.
Right.
I mean, Rex is with me. He slept in his crate right next to my bed. Oftentimes on my bed, you know. And in terms of actual training, we train every other day, right? Because a lot of times every day we were out patrolling, you know. So, and by the way, training is always happening. Like even if you're not setting a training situation up per se,
sure,
just having him with you and just being with you, you're always fine tuning their obedience, their temperament, you know, things like that. And so it was constant, I guess, is what the answer would be.
Yeah.
Training is just always constant, you know, and you would, especially when it comes to detection, they have to smell the odor of each odor that they're trained on so many times every month.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the more, the better, you know, and EOD, which is the bomb team, they would always supply me with the odors so I could set up training problems and so keep them fresh all the time, you know?
Yeah. The tripwire guys that I work with a lot, they have a lot of dog kits and stuff too.
Right.
And it's the exact same thing. It's like, you're like constantly, you got to keep like whatever, you know, they're detecting, if they're either, you know, explosive or narcotic dogs, they have to like constantly be exercising that so that, you know, when they get in those environments, because there's so many different variations of, say, PETN. For some of you guys who seen the or remember the shirts, my canine likes PETN. So it's the primary explosive component in detonation cord, and so you have different I guess different types of explosives that are used in different countries. So we'd have like our plastic would be C4, whereas the British would probably be P4.
Right.
And so there's like the different significance. So you're like constantly having to train your dog on the stuff that it would potentially come into contact with.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And when I was in Iraq, they had a certain kind of PE4 that wasn't the same that we had been used to, that he wasn't used to in training, actually.
Yeah.
And but thankfully the bomb team there had acquired enough of it to where we can use some, so I can get him trained on it, you know?
That's great. Yeah, because that's kind of one of those that isn't, I guess, necessarily in the rule book or whatever you want to call it, because like this, I guess that one of the things that people probably wouldn't even think about is like, oh, it's just like, well, okay, he could just figure out whatever kind of explosives are out there, and that's just not the case, because they don't see it as explosives. It's just it's a specific
right. And just to give you an idea of like the dog can actually detect odors up to, I think it's like 12 feet underground.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, right?
Yeah. In one of your stories there, they have like this substantial.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, Rex. I mean, he had several good finds.
Yeah.
He found small caches. He found a nice cache of det cord.
Yeah.
That was buried in sandbags in a little stash area between trees. I mean, he did a great and that, again, that was even more of a reason why the Marines accepted him, because they could see that he can operate. Now, I'll give you our very first mission.
Yeah.
Right. I'll just give you this one, because we were tested very early on. Like everything that we had done. And by the way, I'd been with Rex for, I think it was a solid year and a half up to the point that we deployed. And that's like hardcore training every day throughout the majority of that time.
Sure.
I was with them all the time, because again, when going back to that story of all of the handlers getting kicked out of canine and the dogs, I was very unmotivated, almost falling into a depression, because I felt like, my entire life in the Marine Corps had just been flipped around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I got Rex, I just put all my energy and attention into training Rex. That's all I cared about, was how good Rex was. I didn't want to think about losing my friends, losing the dogs, all that kind of stuff. So it paid off in that sense, because I was with him nonstop. And so all of that time that I invested into training Rex all came to was all tested on our very first mission. And what happened was, I had been on base there for about a good week and a half or so, and I hadn't been out on a patrol yet, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that they wanted us out on patrols, but the infantry companies didn't know that me and Rex were there yet. I was told that they would be told, and it turned out that they weren't, right?
Yeah.
So I went into the infantry company's office and said, hey, just a heads up, you have a bomb detection dog that is available to you if you want to use them. And they were like, oh my God, we didn't know. Yes, we have a mission going on tonight. Can you come? And I said, sure. So it turns out that there was like a safe house in a certain area of Mamadiya that we were operating in, that they had confirmed was that they had confirmed was a safe house for insurgents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they were essentially going to go raid it during the middle of the night and search the people that were in it and see if they could find anything. And they wanted the dog, because they wanted the dog to sniff around the area and see if Rex could find anything as well. Well, we got dropped off about 100 meters or so behind the house in an alleyway, and there was a barbed wire set up, which they just cut. And we started running, which, by the way, the staff sergeant that was in command of that patrol or of that mission was like, listen, we got to get from here to there in like less than a minute, so let's move fast. And so the squad that I was with spread out and was sprinting essentially through this palm grove that was there, right? And I'm running with Rex, and this is my very first mission, right? Which, by the way, I was told in the briefing room that I wasn't going to be doing this stuff. I was supposed to just stay in the vehicle, and then once the house was secured, I was to go in and sniff around with Rex, right?
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen at all. They said the staff sergeant made the call at the last second, hey, get off the vehicle, you come with us, and we're going to do this raid. And so I was like, okay. So I'm sprinting through this palm grove, and my rifle is so big, because I didn't get an M4, which is a much more compact rifle, which most of the infantry guys had. I had a standard M16 with a long
the A2 or whatever.
Yeah. And which, by the way, I had it slung over my back, because I also had a M9 Beretta, right?
Yeah.
And my dog in my left hand. So I had my pistol in my right hand, Rex's leash in my left hand, and I had my rifle slung over my back, right? But when I was running, my rifle was hitting Rex.
Oh.
And plus, so I realized that it wasn't really, like, for future handlers, like, they need to bring more compact weapons,
Yeah.
And as we're running, there's a pack of stray dogs in the palm grove. Right. So to the other Marines running, they don't care, they're just whatever. It's a pack of stray dogs. But to Rex, that's everything, especially if they see Rex, because now he's intruding on their territory, and they could try and attack or whatnot. Plus,
sound an alarm.
It can give our position away.
Yeah.
Plus, if they were to get in contact with Rex, all of them are diseased,
Yeah.
And Rex, if he were to contract anything, would no longer be able to operate. Plus, Rex saw them, and he wanted to bark and give our position away. So I threw a muzzle. I had to stop running. I quickly pulled out a mesh muzzle, and I just threw it on him right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to be sure he wouldn't bark. And then those strays, they were bold. They were trying to get close to us, and I would pick up rocks as I would run and throw it at them. And then finally a Marine saw what was going on, and he got in between me and the dogs, and we keep them back as we ran. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I had to keep Rex focused on the mission of what's going on, right? So we finally get to right behind the house. They have concertina wires set up, which is the round, you know, like you see on top of prison walls. They had it double layered, stacked behind, and just in case, you know, a squad of Marines wanted to come from behind, they didn't want to make it easy for us. Well, for the Marines, they basically just compressed it. They threw a rifle over it, compressed it, and they were just jumping right over this thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got to get Rex over. And he can't. I tried to get him to jump over, but he wasn't doing it. I tried to get him to jump off my knee with a running start. And which, by the way, this is training. So like in the obedience yard back at Camp Pendleton, we have a 6-foot wall that we would train our dogs to jump over, and Rex could do it, but for him to do it easy, I would have him jump off my leg to do it, right?
Okay.
So now here I am, I stick out my leg, I let him, you know, this is where the training kicked in to see if he would actually do it in real life. He did it, but he slowed his momentum right when he did it. So he was actually going to land on top of the wire, and I threw my hands underneath him. He landed on me. And my hands went into the wire, and then the Marine on the other side grabbed him by the collar and yanked him over, and so he cleared it, right?
Yeah.
But he did get cut.
Oh, yeah.
Part of his underside got cut. So, and I knew that because he let out a noise, but he didn't like yelp, you know what I mean? Which he could have done. But so then I jump over, I check him out. He's good to go. He's bleeding, but he's good to go. And then we step into a big puddle of shit, because there's a cesspool behind the house and it's dark and whatever. It was just bad, you know.
You're not the only Marine I've heard talk about the cesspools around that.
It was disgusting, man. And I pulled him out. It wasn't too deep, like it was just like up to my boots, you know. And so now he's dirty, plus he's cut, you know. And then I wait outside with some of the Marines. The other Marines go in and clear the house. Person jumps out the window, starts running down the street. They say, hey, send the dog to attack, you know, because they can't shoot him because it was clear he didn't have a weapon in his hand, you know. So I send Rex. The guy's running down the road, and by the way, this is the very first time I ever sent Rex, who's fantastic at attacking, by the way. This is the first time I've actually sent him on somebody in real life. And Rex is fast too, so he's closing ground quick. Well, it turned out that it was like a kid, like a 10-year-old kid who ran underneath a street light, and I can tell that it was a young child, you know? Yeah. Well, I mean, come on, man. I can't let Rex maul this kid and have that on my conscience, you know? Yeah. So I called him off. I called Rex off. And again, this is where training kicks in. Rex stopped. The kid had no idea he was about to get destroyed, you know? Yeah. And then I called Rex off once I saw it was a kid, and the kid just kept running down the street, had no idea that a dog was running after him. And then I bring Rex back to me. I call him back. He comes back. We search the house. We didn't really find too much. They found some weapons that were hidden, and then they rounded up some insurgents that they were known to be insurgents, and then we brought them back, and that was it. And that was the whole mission. So you have... you know, between the stray dogs, jumping over the wire, going after, and then getting called off, and then searching the house. That was our, it kind of incorporated a lot of our training all into one mission. Yeah. You know? And, but he did great. He did really, really, and the Marines saw that he did great. And so from that point on, it's just, we were asked to go out all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you guys, I don't want to give away too much of the book, because I definitely want to give the incentive to read and listen to it. And this is like really just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, like you go into so much stuff, from the equipment and everything, from the kennel and everything that you had to deal with in that process, to just finding a place to sleep with Rex and everything. It was just it's really like really interesting. Like I really love the book. I don't think we've ever talked about it. It's like I feel like everybody and their brother feels like their life story is interesting enough to be made into a movie. But this like I don't know like who you worked with on the book, but it follows a very, very good arc. And I'm like, the whole time I'm it's painting such a clear picture. I'm like, oh man, I would really enjoy this movie.
Thanks,
Because
man.
between
it.
Pendleton, your process, the deployment, coming back, everything is just like, it's really, really good.
Well, I was really fortunate, again, to have a professional author co-author the book with me. His name is Damian Lewis, and he specializes in writing a lot of military genre type books. And I'm really thankful to have him throughout the whole process and being a co-author on my book, because I wasn't a professional writer, you know.
Yeah.
I did want to write it, and I did want to tell the story and honor Rex, and by the way, I didn't write it with the intention of hopefully this will be made into a movie one day or anything like that. I mean, if it does, great. If it doesn't, whatever. It's not. I'm just happy that people enjoy this story. It does well, you know, on Amazon out of 5 stars. It has over 200 reviews with 4.8 or 4.7 rating.
Yeah.
You know, people have.
If any of you guys want to increase that,
I'm not.
I feel like here's the thing, like, because like I really wanted to see if Audible would work with me on this specific podcast, because I really I didn't want to be like the salesman, like, you know, when people hear me push Lead Farmer clothing,
right,
Black Rifle coffee and stuff like that. I want them to know that you know, this is me. You know, they are companies that I'm a part of, but you know that supports me and what I do. And so like for this, I really wanted Audible to like be able to like provide a free like download, so people like, okay, like your stories are like really interesting, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I want to listen to it, but I don't know, like, if you're like, if you like, you can get like a credit card or something like that or whatever, and you just like sign up and you get the book for free and then just cancel or whatever you want to do. I don't. It's just like you can go buy the book at Books A Million if there's still one open in your
right,
area,
bookstore, Barnes and Noble,
Amazon, all that stuff. But I really think like anybody who listens to it, they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I'm like, just any of you guys who download the audiobook or you buy it off of Amazon or something like that, make sure you just like throw a review on there, you know, just talk about Mike or you know, your experience. The guy who narrates the audiobook's awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But I if you do get it, I hope you come away with it with a more better understanding of the process that a dog team goes through. And you know, the good thing is there's a lot more stories of dog teams coming out, which is great, because one of the big reasons why I think that people didn't, like, we had to fight so hard to get our dogs the benefits and the awareness that they needed is because there wasn't many stories out there about them. The people just didn't know about. Again, I didn't even know the military had dogs when I joined the Marine Corps, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the more stories we get out, the more people get educated about it and the more awareness it brings and the value that they bring. So that they're never forgotten anymore, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll, you know what? I think we've been almost at this for about 2 hours now, and I don't want to like.
Wow,
I feel like
Jesus, serious?
Yeah. So I want to like tell people what you're doing now though too, because like you keep going from all these like really kind of interesting like things, and now tell everyone where you're working now and what's that all about.
So naturally, it has to deal with veterans and military.
Yeah, of course.
And I work at an entertainment company called We Are the Mighty, and you can check us out, wearethemighty.com. And it launched in November 2014, and here at the time that we're recording this, we're April, and it has millions of views on the website, and it's an entertainment media lifestyle brand for the military veteran community. And we create editorial content, we create videos, but really it's a double bottom line company in the sense that we're an entertainment company just like a bunch of others, and we want to do really well with it, but we also we want to make sure we bring awareness to important issues in the veteran community. We want to give inspiring veterans another platform to give that message to a bigger audience and give them a much bigger reach and really do the community good in an entertainment kind of way. And our founders have tremendous experience and years of experience within the entertainment community. They realize it's a huge market that's essentially being underserved, so they recruited a top tier veteran team of writers and producers to get together and basically create content for the community, and that's what we're doing. So my job is kind of a little bit of everything. My title is Director of Talent and Community Outreach, so I help provide strategic relationships to the company. I bring in veterans that we think would be great to create shows around or to interview, and stuff like that. And it's been great. We have some great shows that we've launched, and a lot more in development. And we have great writers that are touching on topics that are both serious and a lot of fun. You know.
Yeah.
And it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it's kind of funny because we're both at SHOT Show, and did you get a chance to look around at anything? You like
not really
a
little bit.
You were just producing the whole time. I was kind of curious if anything like really stood out for you, like at SHOT Show, that you're like
maybe the one thing that stood out, well, just how huge it was. Actually, I didn't realize how big. I mean, it was multi floors, and the size of the industry. Well, I guess it's really not that surprising. It was very, very large, the amount of products that were out there and the amount of companies that are involved, but also the veteran presence. There's a lot of military veterans that are involved in the industry, and that's one of the reasons why we went to SHOT Show, is because there's so many vets in the SHOT Show community, in the gun community, that we wanted to find some, portray them, and give them a little bit of promotion and create some video content around it.
Yeah. You guys have so much content on the website now. It's like, I mean, like you went from like 0 to 60 so fast.
Yeah, we're working really hard, man. But we're all enjoying it a lot. I work with some really talented. We have a lot of fun. You know, the veterans that I work with. What
I'm trying to think of what you could like really like push to the casual viewer, because I have like such a massive demographic of people that from veterans to kids in high school. I mean, like I have such a varying demographic.
Well, that's a good point. Is like it's not just for the veteran community. A lot of people that are interested in the community I think will find it very entertaining. But I'll give you one example. So my last duty station again was the Wounded Warriors in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
One of the Marines that was part of my squad, his name was Alex Minsky. Alex is a Marine who was he suffered an amputation and in his leg, on one of his legs, and he also had a severe traumatic brain injury where he was knocked into a coma. I think it was for about 90 days, and he went through an amazing recovery just to get back to living a normal life, but he also fell into a deep depression. He went through some real troubled times in his life. Fortunately, he came out on the other end in a really positive and inspirational way, and is now doing really well, right? And I've been in touch with him throughout the whole time. Well, here's the thing. He's a really good-looking kid. He's got all these colorful tattoos, and a photographer saw him in a gym and said, "Hey, I want to photograph you. You have a great look." And he said, "Sure." And this was during a time where he was coming out on a positive note, throughout his recovery.
Yeah.
And the photos went viral, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing them.
Yeah, social media.
Yeah.
And the next photographer wanted to shoot, and next thing you know, he's booking all these photo shoots, right? And like overnight, he went from this Wounded Warrior Marine.
Actually, you could probably even pull it up.
Yeah,
too, if
go
you
ahead,
want.
pull him up. Actually, go to his website. I think it's alexminsky.com. Let's check it out. And he ended up on Jay Leno. He ended up on Good Morning America. I mean, he just kind of like became very large all of a sudden because people found inspiration in his story and also think that he's a really good-looking kid, Here he is. Here goes his website pulling up, I think. Yeah. And so because of all the attention he was getting, look at him. There he is, right? Back when I first met him, he didn't have all those tattoos. He barely had any, actually. I don't know how's this going to work. There we are.
It's one of those flash sites.
Yeah. But he went through this amazing recovery and now has a very large social media following. And so because of where I work, I brought him, and I've been friends with him this whole time. I brought him in and said, listen, people find inspiration in you. If you had a camera on you and had your own show and had a platform, what would you want to do with it?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I love my audience. They've supported me so much. I just want to give back to them however I can by letting them have more access to me by asking me questions and just giving them some kind of support on video.
Yeah.
So we said, great, let's do a show around it, and we did. We called Get Mighty with Minsky. And now we have now he has his own show. that his fans love. They can't get enough of it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and he just inspires people through his videos and answering questions, and so that's a perfect example of us, you know, giving an inspiring figure within the veteran community a platform to just continue to reach more people.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, and we have a lot of others, you know, some female veterans that we're partnering with, and we're getting into music. We're getting into all kinds of different industries that vets will want to find out and learn more about, you know.
Well, I honestly, I can't thank you enough for coming out here. I mean, like I've wanted to do this podcast for so long, but
yeah,
I just
man,
didn't.
Congrats on this beautiful podcast setup.
No,
dude.
I wanted to have you here for like a long time. I wanted to have you on the channel. I really wanted to like incorporate you in some way or another. I was like, oh, let's do some like decoy stuff. We'll do it in slow motion.
Right.
Like I don't know how we'll do it, but like honestly, I feel like your book is just like one of the best ways to do it. And I didn't want it's been a whole experimenting process here over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and I've had some like, you know, really good guests come on, but I didn't even want to upload the footage because it's just the equipment and everything was so crappy, and I feel like there's certain expectations that like some viewers might have of the quality of stuff that I put out and everything. So I wanted to make sure everything was good, and I didn't want to like waste anybody's time. And I know like,
well, I hope I didn't waste anyone's time either.
No. I'm talking about wasting somebody's time, like your time coming out here and then having an inferior product.
Yeah, well,
like,
I love what you do, man. I like it. You know, again, you were the way we got introduced is because I recognized that you were trying to bring awareness to military dogs and some of their rights that they needed. So I appreciated that a lot. And then I followed your stuff since, and you know, you're entertaining, man. You do a really good job.
I'm glad you still follow, because it's like I try to explain to people, there's a very, very like delicate balance that I have to kind of go by, because there's so many necessary evils in what I do, and like the thing that I really like about this podcast is I can talk about it. People can understand where I come from. And you know, when I first started doing what I do, there's a lot of people who will emulate what you do that's successful. And I knew from day one that from the first time I shot an iPhone that destroying technology would be successful for me.
Sure.
It SEOs really, really well, and it's a huge catalyst for my growth. But it's not necessarily something I have fun doing it. I love coming up with. If anybody's ever seen the Xbox One video that I did where I'm like trying to impact it at the same time with a 50 cal and a deck cord, I absolutely love a challenge. I geek out on the science behind this stuff. I mean, obviously, like look at the slow motion stuff and everything that we do, and but then there's this balance between that, the breakdown episodes. I want to do this explosive series, but it caters to a very, 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 very small demographic. And for me, it's so I can keep my sanity. I do these kind of pet projects that don't necessarily do as well, but I know the core viewers really appreciate it. And I know these podcasts won't necessarily be, you know, tens of millions of views or anything, but the people that I care about will definitely appreciate it.
Good,
And they'll hear like the point of view that and they'll probably get tired of hearing me talk because they'll know what my opinion's going to be. But the fact that I get to bring people that like have like such unique stories like yourself and perspectives and are doing so many like really, really good things like VFT and now with We Are the Mighty and everything, your whole backstory and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, well, okay, well, if I guarantee you if only 20 people listen to this podcast because they know of me or whatever and like appreciate the videos and stuff that I do, all of them are going to really appreciate your book.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I hope that they do. And well, thanks for putting this together. I appreciate you bringing me out, man.
No worries. So, like, okay, first of all, let's pimp everything out that you're like. Okay. What's your social media? What's the big handles that you were Snapchatting when you came in here?
I just discovered Snapchat not long ago. I know. But social media is a necessary evil.
It is.
Especially if you have things to communicate about.
Yeah.
And so because of the veteran community and staying involved, it's just another tool. Today's generation of veterans is very much dialed into social media, just like everybody else. So I like to be on it because of that.
Yeah.
And you can just find me at Mike Dowling on everything. Mike Dowling. Twitter, Instagram. If you want to follow me on Snapchat, it's actually Murphy Sutter. That's my.
Wait, why is it Murphy Sutter?
That was what are they, your porn name? Is your first pet and the street you grew up on, right? Yeah. So my first pet was Murphy. He was a dog, and the street I grew up on was Sutter. So Murphy Sutter. There you go.
All right. So what we might do is we'll after we put this one up and everything, we'll give everybody a opportunity to read your book, listen to it, and then maybe if any of you guys have any questions or something like that you might want to know about, just hit us up on Twitter or any of that stuff, and we'll try to cover it in the next time, because I know this isn't going to be the last one that we're going to do.
No, anytime, man. If you want to ask me a question on any social media, I'll do whatever I can to get back at you, or I'd be happy to come back if you want it for round
100%.
2 or 3 or 10. You know
Sweet.
what I mean, man?
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And
Awesome.
Again, big special thanks to Audible for helping support the channel. If you guys want to pick up a copy of Mike's book, Sergeant Rex, go to audible.com/fullmag. Sign up and download your free copy. I promise you that if you pick it up, you won't be disappointed. It's an extremely compelling story, and after you check it out, tweet me or Mike and let us know what you thought. I made this setup so I could get higher quality stuff out on a more regular basis, so if there's anybody you'd like for me to have here on the podcast, let me know, and I'll see y'all next time.